Viva Pitsenyor!
Viva Pitsenyor!
At ang tagag si pangpakpak si Senyor Santo Niño. Hapit naman ang Valentine's Day. Kibaw ko sa mga manag-uyab, mas excited pa kaysa minyo. Mao nga magisgot ta og love. Brothers and sisters, if you are in love, have you ever asked yourself, is it worth falling in love? Especially sa mga batan-on nga naa sa gawas. May I ask you, have you ever asked yourself, is it worth loving somebody? Is it worth all the sacrifices that you have done to your beloved? Is it worth the sacrifice being a mother and a father to your children without knowing what would happen when they grow up? Is it worth the sacrifice after learning that your husband or your wife is unfaithful to you and you continue to forgive? Is it worth the sacrifice after all the hardships of studying? Is it worth the sacrifice to love? When a person is in love, he or she never looks at pain. When a person is in love, all that matters is today. Only those who take risks would truly experience what love is all about. Only those who take risks achieve success in their lives. Is it worth the risk of falling somebody else? No wonder when somebody is falling in love, he or she gives up everything for the beloved. Because giving up of oneself is the true manifestation of love. And when you talk about love, it is always connected with commitment. Our readings today, starting with the book of Sirach, the first reading, talks about the following of the commandment of the law. And we are asked to be committed to follow the law of God. And more so in our gospel reading today, Jesus was telling his disciples, when you say no, you should mean no. When you say yes, you should mean to say yes. To put it simply, it's all about commitment. In one way or another, we have commitments. Short commitment or even long-term commitment. For those who are in love, for those who are committed, was there a time in your life that you are bored with your relationship? Was there a time in your life when you want to give up with your commitment? Have you experienced telling yourself, if only I have the choice? If time machine were true, may ask the husbands If you were given the chance to turn back time, will you still marry the wife that you're having right now? Or for the husbands or the wives who are around, if given the choice 5, 10, 20 years ago, are you going to marry the wife that you're having right now? Sometimes our commitment is tested. When a person is in relationship because of love, it is not just a walk in a park, but there are hardships, there are trials, and even tribulations. For our reflection, my dear brothers and sisters, how can we surpass when our commitment is tested? What shall we do when our commitment is tested? May I propose 3 things. 3 letter R's. Number 1, when your commitment is tested, remember your inspiration. Who is your inspiration? Kung kuyog nimo karon ang imong bana, mga asawa, mangutana ko, inspiration ba na nimo ang imong bana? Kung kuyog nimo ang inyong anak karon, mga ginikanan, are your children your inspiration? Kung maingon mo, "Oh Father," then repeat after me, tudlua ang imong tapad og ingna palihog, "You are my inspiration." Together. Murag hinay man, murag dili man konbinsido. Beos ba be? You are my inspiration. Ingna. Nya ingna dayon, joke only. When our commitment is tested, always remember your inspiration. If you are at the brink of temptation, being a husband, kay nagsuway-suway na ka og like sa picture sa imong classmate pag high school, nagsuway-suway na ka og chat og moingon na kag, "How you? Eat na you?" Remember the face of your children. Kung ganahan na ka mo give up in your relationship, remember the faces of your children because they are your inspiration. If you want to give up with your work, kay gikapoy na ka, remember the faces of your children. Alang sa mga estudyante, when you want to give up with your studies, kay gikapuya na ka og tubag sa mga assignment, remember the face of your mother and father who labored so much for you. Remember your inspiration. Number 2, remember the time when you are most happy. When you are committed and commitment is not just an easy affair. When you talk about commitment, it means an ongoing work from one mistake to another without losing enthusiasm and inspiration. When you give yourself to the Lord, when you give yourself to somebody else, it does not mean that everything would be a honeymoon stage. There will be trials, there will be troubles. But when things do not come out right, do not count the hardships, but count and remember the happy memories that you have shared. Kung sa panahon isip asawa, ganahan na kamo give up ug muli sa inyo, remember the time of your married day. Unsa ka kamalipayon ug excited. Kung ikaw ba na ganahan na ka mo give up sa imong asawa, hinumdumi itong panahon nga grabe imong sakripisyo, nga magsigi kag hatod o kuha niya, o gani mamugos pagyug ka aron magkita mo. Kung ganahan na mo give up sa inyong relationship, remember the times nga inigtanaw niyo sa inyong mata, manggawas-gawas ang heart sa inyong mga mata. Ambot ka mga minyo, manggawas pang heart sa inyong mga mata. Kung ganahan na mong magbuwag, timan itong mga panahon nga dili magbuwag ang pagkupot sa inyong mga kamot. Kay may bawaan man nako kung ba nag-asawa, di yun na maghuling haso sa simbahan. Magholding hands na ikamhan namo. Usahay pagani, di mo tapad aron di magholding hands. Pero ang mga batanon kanang uyab, biska nagwali ang pari, nagholding hands. Remember the times that you are most happy with your relationship. When you want to give up as a worker in an office or perhaps in a call center, remember the time of the first day of work that you are so excited going to the office. Never forget the happy memories of your commitment. And number 3, remember to share your burdens to the Lord. Remember to share your burden to Señor Santo Niño. When we are in a commitment, again, is it not easy? Problems would come, trials and difficulties would be encountered. But if we carry all the load by ourselves, we would give up. Share your burden to Señor Santo Niño. One of the things that I remember with the late Cardinal Vidal, one time before his retirement, I tried to ask him, Your Eminence, how were you able to survive being the Archbishop for 29 years? And he said, you know, my dear, every day is very busy for me. I go to masses, a lot of meetings. But he said, before I go to sleep, I would enumerate all the problems to the Lord and we tell Him, Lord, these are the problems that I have, and I will unload the problems to you. In other words, before we sleep, unload your problems to Señor Santo Niño. Tell to Señor Santo Niño, these are my problems, knowing that in my capacity, things are impossible. But with Señor Santo Niño, all things are possible. Share your burdens to the Lord so that you will not give up with your commitment. If we only rely with our human effort, we cannot handle the trials of life. We need the grace and power of Señor Santo Niño that we can carry through all the problems that we are carrying. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, we go back to the same question. Is it worth the risk to love somebody? And when we love, we commit. And when we commit, what shall we do when our commitment is tested? 3 things. Number 1, remember your inspiration. Number 2, remember the time that you are most happy. And number 3, remember to share your burden to the Lord. Amen.